Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
John, we can't keep putting this off.
Okay, I'll clean the gutters.
I'm talking about your dad.
Well, what can we do? He wants to stay in his house.
We can make his house safer.
You know he's a proud guy. He's not going to take all our fussing lying down.
That's the idea.
For older people, falling and breaking a hip can be devastating. For easy ways to make home safer, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Orthopedic Trauma Association.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot to get to here today, among other things, the tax setting season, I guess, might be the best way to put it here. I don't know. That's kind of a phrase I'm coming up with, but more details, particularly now out of the county side, and some of their initial their proposed tax anticipation note coming out, and well, what that means. This is not exactly the full tax rate to my understanding, but well, there could be a part of what we're seeing, expecting a further cut in taxes, though what that actually means for you individually remains to be seen here. Again, proposed and more discussion, because there's a lot more to come with that here, as we have Flaco Jimenez, John Hertz, and John Brazelton chiming in here. Including Latinos equal breakfast tacos. Yeah, I've been hearing that those things on Twitter and otherwise going around today as being just one of those why. But otherwise, I agree with Flaco Jimenez as Taco Tuesday, absolutely, and John Brazelton with a passing the hot sauce there. And that's been going on, of course, in the background today. But in the meantime, a lot of other serious things going on. Again, the tax anticipation notes approved by the county today would include specific projects. So these are things more than just the basic operations of the county here. So again, a first look at it. But furthermore, there also has been quite a lot of information coming out today about the Uvalde situation and everything going on in there. Specifically, it was initially reported today that there was going to be a potential release of the video coming out as soon as Sunday, along with a report on Uvalde. And I'll guess we'll have to go to the other controversy here in a minute. But there actually has now been obtained by the Austin American Statesman and KVUA television station out of Austin of the initial video and the full span of it of security cameras from around the school there at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, and a lot of response coming into that already. So we'll definitely be diving into that here today. But also we are going to be joined by Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., talking about some of their recent reporting and those economic situations we are looking at here in the borderland, what those might mean, and the trends, what you need to know, etc., etc. So, just because Rudy was asking there, Rudy Rivera asking, what is the controversy? I love tacos. So there were some, I'm not actually sure where the remarks happened here. I was just only seeing the reaction because, let's just say, making allusions to people based pretty much on their, well, just their food is a little bit silly at best, and well, for a lot more of it, I don't have the exact words on it here, but essentially referring to talking about diversity and the importance of it, and saying that, of course, and like Latinos, their contributions from bodega and breakfast tacos, and I guess I can kind of see shades of it of being the taco truck on every corner kind of response that happened during the previous administration as being hailed as a bad thing. And then people saying, wait, no, that sounds great. And then during this one saying, well, yes, that's great, but also maybe think about some other contributions there. Because, yeah, again, saying like, oh, yeah, you're what, Colombian, I love coffee. It's a little bit tone deaf at best here, but also came from just a little bit silly, among other things. So that's some of the controversy and why you might hear that keep coming up in your tweets and Twitter and such today, and a lot of other comments. So we won't necessarily get into that here. Though apparently in a pretty quick turnaround, the RNC is already selling Jill Biden breakfast taco shirts going on right now. It happened at the Unidos US event. And yeah, there's a whole lot of response that I'm sure you'll keep hearing about that. John Hertz, another way of putting it there. Jill Biden said Latinos are unique as breakfast tacos. So again, find the clip for yourself there, make your own determination. I would strongly recommend here. But getting back to that taxes situation here briefly, again, potentially a lowering of the taxes. So whenever you're talking about investment money, because again, that's part of the way the county is looking at that outside of the just kind of general operations of the county, paying salaries, etc. It's broken up into two parts, the INS and the MNO. Essentially, the initial investment and paying for it, but then also the maintenance and operations. You may have recalled some time ago, gosh, it was more than 5 years at this point, that there was the vaunted penny swap election, the idea of swapping 1 penny from the INS, again, the actual investment into the maintenance and operations being put forth as, well, this is something good then, right? It's something that is, helpful, and it's not going to reduce your tax rate, so you should vote for it. And I will perfectly admit, being a fairly junior reporter at that point, I thought, okay, so tax rates aren't going up. And the way one of my news editors at the time here, and it's one of the things that has been more or less foundational for me and how I think about taxes, because sure, not having paid them much at that point in my life, I mean, a lot more I've paid now, that's for damn sure. Thought okay, that's not changing that much. So why is this a bad thing? And the way he put it to me was, okay, imagine your landlord comes to you and says, hey, I see that you just paid off your car. So now we're going to just roll that payment into, well, your regular, rental payment. You're not paying anything more, so it's great, right? So that's one of those things. Not saying that's a part of this one, but if you're wondering about the difference there between the INS and the MNO, that's a little bit part of it. So again, the continuing of the setting of tax season, I think I'm going to start wanting to call it that, as we are definitely in those ends of fiscal years and such. But also, again, that details coming out, again, by the Austin American-Statesman and KVUE out of Texas, obtaining and now releasing some of the school shooting surveillance video. If you want to find some links to it over with our news partners here at kfoxtv.com. They do have the full videos up. I will not be playing any clips of those, but you are certainly more than welcome to search them up for yourself here, including one of the more, I guess, impacting ones is a time lapse of what happened in the hallway outside of it. And I think, if anything, this is going to even further ramp up those calls for action, investigation, heads rolling, frankly, probably out of this whole situation. There had been some push from the DA in the Uvalde area to not have this released. Some of the implications, I think, were put forth by them, more along the lines of could affect the investigation. But the answers or lack thereof have been significantly frustrating to me personally, and I think a lot more people, including some elected officials. You pick a level of non-local to that area, Texas government, and you think you're going to find people upset about this here. Yeah, it's this is not going away anytime soon. As many, regardless of how many might want to see this just disappear. Don't think this is going anyway anytime soon, and particularly with this video released, again, you can see it all over now. If you go and look at KVUE, they have some edited video. They did not release the full thing showing any direct violence, shall we say, but the situation is chilling enough from the very beginning of the alleged shooters dumping into a ditch with his truck and then opening fire onto some of the, security guards at the school, and then further going down hallways. It's more than a little bit chilling here. I've only reviewed parts of it myself here because, again, the only parts of it are out here. But yeah, it's a little bit heavy. So if you're willing to go and see it for yourself, again, KVUE and the Austin American-Statesman have the edited video up, and you can find that link over from our news partners at kfoxtv.com. So that is going to continue developing. But in the meantime, let's talk about a few more local things due for that first break of the hour here right now. And coming out of this break, going to be talking with Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., on a few things, including some reporting going on here that we ever so slightly mentioned recently as a few topics of interest here, including economic downturn potentials in El Paso, the UMC expansion, and closing of areas and businesses in El Paso. So we'll get into all that and a whole lot more. So yeah, a lot of comments coming in here. Robbie Flores, RJ, John Brazelton, Barbara Carrasco, Kathy Codry, John Hertz, Flaco Jimenez, and more. Maria Common as well, tuning in and chiming in, including Rudy Rivera over there on the social media, also dropping those likes and reacts. Robbie Flores and Flaco Jimenez, we do appreciate that as it helps us with those algorithmic things. So again, coming out of this break, more on the local situation and what that's going to mean going forth. The reporting going on with it. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash on Artcraft westbound at I-10 Desert Boulevard. Border Highway eastbound at Executive Center Boulevard. A stalled RV is blocking the left lane. Injury accident Gateway eastbound at Hawkins. Crash reported Joe Battle northbound at Montwood. And that incident in I-10 westbound at Red is all clear. All lanes back open. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Is it time to call for the impeachment of Joe Biden? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, we're going to take a look at the millions of barrels of oil sold to Chinese companies directly tied to Hunter Biden. For all the details, download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Have you thought about dental implants? Has someone told you that dental implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per tooth? Please do not pay that much money. Instead, go to 1995implants.com, the El Paso dental office where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown. Plus, we offer a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. At 1995implants.com, dental implants are very affordable. So get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, and loose, old, wobbly dentures, and get the amazing new smile that you've been wanting. 1995implants.com is conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, please see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
If you've ever ordered food for work, you understand. It's different. There's just so much more at stake. Whether it's a meeting, a client call, or lunch with the office that has to arrive at the actual lunchtime, food for work has to work. That's why there's Easy Cater. Food that's on time and as ordered from over 82,000 restaurants. And if there's a problem, rare, you can reach someone in seconds.
Thank you for calling Easy Cater.
Some food just doesn't work at work, but Easy Cater just does. Order 24/7 at easycater.com.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. and a lot of issues that we're getting into here, and we'll continue to do so. A lot of comments coming in as well, among other things with the property taxes. John Brazelton saying, as he has before, Texas will soon need a Proposition 13 to protect taxpayers from out-of-control local politicians. Whether or not that happens or will be necessary, well, actually, to talk a little bit about some of those related-ish issues, I guess you could say, we are joined here by Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc. So thank you very much for checking in with us, as we do most full weeks of Tuesdays at the start of the month anyway.
Happy to be here as always. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, we got some interesting reporting out this week here, and so we're kind of at the kickoff of what I'm considering a tax season, or the setting of tax season more specifically, but it's already been kind of going on for a while here, but not as the usual way it's starting to be looked at the restarts and ends of fiscal year, start of the next one kind of things that we're looking at here as we were talking about today, because among other things, that UMC situation is very interesting and fluid. But let's just start with one of the bigger questions that frankly determines how people will respond to things like the setting of taxes is, what is going on with regional economics? One of your top stories this week, of course.
So recent economic forecasts see a rising probability that El Paso could fall into an economic downturn later this year.
Now, of course, depending on what measures and things you're looking at, we are technically potentially within a recession now, though, of course, the just because of economic growth, GDP kind of things, that's slowing. But as has also been noted, it's not quite that simple nationally. Anyway, we've also got things like hiring is still continued strong, even as consumer confidence drops and inflation stays high. So trying to break this down then locally, what are some of the factors in y'all's reporting you're looking at?
So this certainly is a national issue. I mean, there's been a lot of reporting about a possible recession, using the R word there. They're saying, the Fed right now is trying to control inflation, the rising interest rates, and they're walking this kind of tightrope, hoping that they can cool off inflation while not sending us into a deep recession. But what was interesting is that we could look at what's going on here locally. El Paso is sort of, we like to call it centrally isolated. It works a little different, its economy. And we tend to lag the nation. So as we're looking at what's happening in the nation, we can maybe guess that we're eventually going to get there, but maybe not quite as fast. So an economic research unit at UTEP, they have a model that kind of looks at what the probability is of a economic downturn. I think they refer to it as like a business contraction, like a recession. And what the model's showing right now is that the probability is rising. So we're up to about a 70% chance that El Paso will enter an economic downturn in the fourth quarter of this year.
So not technically there yet is what the forecasting says, at least, again, locally speaking about, within the borderland region as we define it. But again, kind of given how much economics is based on expectations anyway, in aggregate, this could, I hate to use the term self-fulfilling prophecy, but if people are starting to think that things will be slowing down, they may start taking some of the actions that could, it's self-reinforcing cycle, I guess might be a better way to put it.
That's right. And of course, these are just estimates. This is just a model. And according to this model, there's a 30% chance that we'll never see a downturn here in El Paso. But there's a 70% chance it's coming by the end of the year. And that model is based on several factors that look specifically to this area. It's not just looking at the national picture. So we're looking at U.S.-Mexico Treasury yields. An important one is the peso-dollar exchange rate. Anybody that knows how many shoppers that come here from south of the border, the Dallas Fed Business Cycle Index. They kind of wrap that all together and then come up with an estimate. Now, I think why a lot of people are focused on this is that, well, we just seem to come out of a tough area. We're still in the pandemic. Businesses are struggling with all the things we keep hearing about, with supply chain challenges, the hiring challenges, the shocks of the pandemic, all of that. And then now to be talking about a possible contraction, I think has a lot of people concerned, even though, to emphasize this, it may not happen, but the probability is rising.
And again, even with people taking potentially prudent steps, again, self-reinforcing is about the best way I'm going to think about this without getting into mild superstition here, to be honest with you, because as people expect certain things to happen, and they may batten down the hatches, which is something I've been, frankly, and just personally been recommending people to do. Business cycles can be definitely impacted, because if you don't think things are going to work out well, and in the near future, probably not going to look at that investment, that expansion, that additional hiring. So some of these disparate factors we've mentioned so far could end up being, well, even further affected, and just making the reading of the tea leaves even that much more difficult, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hope, is actually that they can get folks to pull back a little bit on their spending and help cool down that inflation that's going on with the economy, but not so much that it's a shock. And we talked to some of the local business leaders here, and some of their recommendations for businesses is they should look at maybe looking to hold on to their cash. So, like you said, it could be self-fulfilling, right? But some of the ways you can help to blunt the impact is hold on to a bit of your cash, look at your reserves, look at ways to save and consolidate, and get creative about what you do in terms of your products and services, and just be aware of it.
Yeah, and actually, Robbie Flores asking the question we're kind of hinting at here. How does the help wanted signs everywhere, Golden Corral offering $13 an hour for dishwashers, how does that factor in? And, I mean, it does. I mean, among other things, I think we have during the bottom of the hour news update coming up here, more talk about also the county raising its employment rate and $14 an hour for lifeguards because they're being having trouble with that, even with an $800 hiring bonus there. So, I mean, it's compound factors, and really simply to put the answer there, it makes it more complicated and harder to answer.
Well, and it seems like every time that we're possibly looking at a recession, they say, oh, this one's nothing like the ones that came before it, right? Like when we had the financial crash, and they're saying that again. I mean, if this is a recession, it's not going to look the same. And it is odd. I mean, at the same time we're talking about a possible recession, we have this issue with businesses raising wages and looking for workers and a low unemployment rate. This model also did show that the expectation would be that if this contraction were to occur, that it would, we saw a sort of unemployment rebound after the pandemic, but we could see those numbers start to rise again in terms of the unemployment numbers in the end of the year. So you think November, December.
Which is also usually a strong seasonal employment time. So again, there's a lot of questions to be had about what this is, but again, some basic expectations. So, and of course, related to this is some of y'all's other reporting about businesses closing. We noted a couple of the ones last week, such as the FIS in the, I believe it was the former Popular building or one of those. I'm not quite up on my names of important buildings downtown outside of a few standard ones. But then also there was the closing of the CVS. And then, of course, there was the Food City and Fox Plaza. So we're looking at, or at least, I mean, we're talking about 3 specific incidents here, but given the time frame and the coincidence of how close they are together, it can lead to people start making some conclusions there. So what is all your reporting going on with that particular set of issues?
Yeah, so looking at Food City, I mean, they had been in business for more than 50 years. It's a standby in South El Paso. I know people that live close to there and love to shop there are a bit upset that it's closing. It's going to remain open through the first week of August, and then after that, it's closing, along with the Ace Hardware that's next to it, which is owned by the same franchisees. And most of the hardware stores are actually here on the fast-growing edges of the city, so that was a key resource as well. The owner said they made the decision based on their age and health, and also just, in the grocery business, the margins are really tight. And over time, it just becomes more and more difficult.
I mean, looking at some of the supply chain issues that we have talked about, them noting that as well. And that's, I think, probably not to conflate these stories entirely, but part of the issues we're also looking at with these potential just issues economically is that, and kind of as it conflates also a little bit with what's going on with the hiring that was noted there, as Robbie was asking. It's not even necessarily that businesses are like just they can't make money off what they're doing. They're not even sometimes able to do what they are meant to do because of supply chain issues, of increasing costs, those kind of things.
Well, what the vice president of Food City told us is that El Paso's grocery store market has just been difficult, especially over the last 2 years. I'm sure that's true of many businesses with the pandemic and many workers, but stores have been hit by the same thing: supply shortages, long fulfillment waits, skyrocketing inflation, all those sorts of things. And this is the first local grocery to close in the past several years. I mean, you'll remember that Silva's grocery, after more than 100 years in business, closed in 2019. But it's just a challenging business, particularly. I mean, El Paso, we're kind of outside of the typical supply chain.
That is very true.
And we're always wanting, like, is Trader Joe's going to come here? Is HEB going to come here? And there's always rumors about that.
Yep.
And the answer is always, well, maybe in the future, but the challenge is always we're not on their supply routes, so it becomes expensive, and that's why groceries here are actually more expensive than you see in a lot of other cities.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the low cost of living here in this area, kind of in aggregate, but this is one of those areas where it doesn't really bear out as true because, sure, we are a huge inland port, but for not everything, essentially.
No, and not to mention also this market is dominated by essentially one giant. I mean, we got the list of market shares for local grocery stores, and no surprise, Walmart is by far the largest market share here. Nearly 40% of the grocery store market is dominated by Walmart, followed by Albertsons at 13%. And after that, it just plummets. It's about 5% for Sam's Club, which is, again, a Walmart company.
Well, that's true.
And then from there, so Walmart just truly dominates this market for grocery.
Yeah, that's what Catherine Coterie points out, $1.69 for an avocado most recently that she checked there. So, yeah, I think definitely is some complicated issues here. But tell you what, we'll talk more about this in this coming segment here. We're going to take that next break of the hour here, I should say. So, again, talking here in studio with Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., about some of their recent reporting and issues that we're going to be looking at and analyzing in our area. So we'll continue talking about this as well as some of the other stories we'll be talking about, including UMC and the expansion plan and a whole lot more. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments coming in over on social media. We've been popping some up on screen, so if you want to keep leaving those, more than welcome to. Otherwise, we'll open up those phone lines a little bit later in the program as we do. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The trial continues for a former Las Cruces police officer accused of killing a man that he was trying to detain. Christopher Smeltzer is charged with second-degree murder in the 2020 death of Antonio Valenzuela. Smeltzer used a chokehold to restrain Valenzuela. Today, another LCPD officer who responded to the scene with Smeltzer testified that they were unable to restrain Valenzuela, who was resisting arrest. The officer said that the vascular restraint was a last resort. The trial continues this week. Smeltzer faces up to 20 years if convicted. El Paso County Commissioners agreed to raise the starting pay for lifeguards to $14 an hour. That's up from the current $13 an hour. Hiring incentives such as $800 bonuses were offered to hires at the start of 2022. The county still doesn't have enough lifeguards to fully staff all 3 county pools. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Still got heavy stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 westbound before Thorn to Trans Mountain with 24-minute delays. It's a combination of road work and heavy traffic. An accident's reported westbound Artcraft at I-10 Desert Boulevard. A crash with injuries at Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Hawkins. And at Gateway South at Sun Valley Drive, the left lane's partially blocked with road debris. Stay to the right. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. I hope you're a fan of this kind of weather because it is not going to change much over the next 7 days out. We can thank that area of high pressure off in the Four Corners that's going to basically keep us looking pretty dry and very hot. Temperatures during the day will continue to climb to near triple digits with those mild overnight temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Did you know that it was a boy from Memphis, Tennessee who founded Holiday Inn? And doing so changed the hotel industry as we know it. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
They're here, circling over your head, and are tracking you down. You feel overwhelmed, like you can't escape. You need a solution to get your back taxes filed, to put your life back on track. You need someone who can keep the vultures at bay and work directly with the IRS to leverage every opportunity to settle your debt. Edward Areola of United Financial Services is licensed to represent you before the IRS. Don't let the IRS threaten you. You should never need to speak to them directly. Edward does that for you. United Financial Services will help settle your entire IRS tax debt for up to 85% off the original amount owed, including penalties and interest if you qualify. United Financial Services, family owned in El Paso, can be a lifesaver for you. Call 915-500-3255, 915-500-3255, or go to UnitedFinancialEP.com. Call 915-500-3255 now.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Crayola 24-count crayons and 4-ounce Elmer's glue are just 50 cents each. Plus, 1-inch binders are only $1.99. In-store only. Offer ends 7/16. Limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in through most of those platforms here, but again, joining us in studio here right now is Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., talking to us as he does most starts of the month here, or plus a week because of the whole holiday weekend thing. But anyway, thank you very much for sticking around with us to talk more about your stories and your reporting going on here. A lot of response coming in for the grocery store issues here. RJ putting out a information wanted 3 for $1 avocados not seen for months. Reward for info leading to deals on avocados. Good luck with it. John Brazelton saying that apparently you've never been in a Costco, but it's also interesting to note here, like, sure, Costco may weigh heavily in a lot of people's minds, but it just sheer footprint size in town, they're actually not that big. There's one location as opposed to like Sam's Club, which is also thought about the same way, which is 4 locations, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think according to our list here, 38 Walmart locations in terms of groceries, but that Costco is always packed.
That's true.
I certainly do shop there. It's a bit of a zoo, and there's always rumors about, are they opening another store? But we haven't heard anything definitive on that, but it is one store in the city.
Yeah, so again, a lot of comments coming in about that. So if you wanted to chime in over there, Maria Coleman, RJ, John Brazelton, and more, and also dropping those likes and react, Robert Haynes, Robbie Flores, and Flaco Jimenez, to appreciate that. So kind of related to this is one of the stories that we had talked about briefly here that you all have had in recent weeks is about, well, the ransomware attacks focused on particularly like local and regional businesses.
So this is a long time issue of cyber attacks on businesses, but they have been increasing, and you just don't hear about it very much, because if you're a business and you end up with a ransomware attack and someone seizes your data and all that happens to you, it just doesn't get publicized.
Yeah,
and so
true.
You don't hear about it, but it is happening. So we were able to get the data on this locally. So according to the FBI, let's see, we got 1,700 cyber-related crimes were reported in El Paso to the FBI from June 2021 to June 2022, over a year period. Losses of more than $20 million total. And it's important to point out that's just what was reported. A lot of businesses that suffer attacks also do not report them to the FBI.
That is very true. I've never been in a business that has been directly targeted by it. Well, I guess I should amend that to say I've never been in my local area. Some of the other places that I've worked at, other like locations, other franchises, etc., were attacked by it there. And at least at one point, actually, I was aware of another TV station that the attack was sufficient enough for them to get in and lock down even the digitized video archives. And so they were really holding the ransom there because, I mean, if they were saying if you didn't pay up in however much Bitcoin they were demanding at that point in time, we were going to delete everything, like zero out the drives, nothing recoverable kind of thing. So it can be deeply impacting, and people may have heard over the years there have been even municipalities getting attacked by this and other certain small areas, or like hospitals, just like real devious stuff. But even when it comes to just businesses, I mean, $20 million is nothing to sneeze at.
Well, and small businesses don't always have the resources to put in the protection that's needed.
True.
So The FBI is saying that it's confidential. If you report it, they're really urging businesses to help them out in this fight and to report it and to be proactive. They will come out. They will provide training. They have resources online. And while it's just not talked about all that much, not public, it is a big issue. And the FBI is saying to watch out and to report it when it happens.
So to another major local taxing issue, so to speak here, the whole UMC situation and that certificate of obligation potentially being issued again. We're in that 60-day countdown, so probably in like the 40s or 30s here by this point, if I'm not jumping ahead too much. That is going on, and that could lead to the eventual issuance of this, again, as noted, including by y'all, as a non-voter approved debt, which is an interesting phrase to me, but there's a lot of questions about what is exactly being needed here. What will this impact homeowners? And as you know, for the $200,000 home, it'd be about $110 a year. But some of the connections previously have also been coming up in question about, okay, how are these operations supposed to run, and why is this going to be required if they've been running the way they're supposed to?
Yeah, I think a good deal of the criticism has surrounded sort of the transparency and the hope that it would actually, if it's going to impact tax bills that much, it would be approved by voters. And you mentioned the term non-voter approved debt. It basically just means it's a type of debt that all of us, here in El Paso, wouldn't get a chance to vote whether it's issued or not. It just is issued and it's done. But what UMC is saying is that it is needed because it would expand their critical care beds, add operating rooms, labs, urgent care center, clinic, comprehensive cancer center is a big ticket item. And then one we've looked at a little more closely is the expansion at El Paso Children's. That one is raising some questions.
Yeah, because the El Paso Children's, I sat in on some of those cases as that whole bankruptcy, restructuring, whatever process went through, that just it seemed very nonsensical at the time. And I think people may have been left essentially with that sense of not knowing what's really going on there. So how does that relate, in what you all are reporting on, to this potential increase in the resources for UMC?
Well, a piece of this, I think it's about $345 million expansion plan. I think $35 million of that would be to build out the 8th floor of the El Paso Children's Tower. So El Paso Children's is located next to UMC,
right?
But it's important to note here, it's a separately licensed nonprofit hospital. It's not actually part of UMC. It's a separate hospital,
right?
But it shares space, and it rents that space from the county taxpayer-supported health district. So the question would be, well, how does a private entity that isn't required to abide by like disclosure laws in terms of open records requests and stuff, how can they take advantage from a public issuance of this debt? And the short answer to that is the $35 million would be used to build out the 8th floor of the tower, and then El Paso Children's would rent that, just like it does the rest of its space there in the tower at El Paso Children's. But that just has raised questions given what happened during the bankruptcy and in terms of how it's paying its rent to UMC and all that surrounded that.
So again, we are in that countdown here, and of the information and the outreach period, as we've seen some of those initial outreach efforts begin primarily in that kind of a one-page explanation as they're putting it out here. But of course, as some commissioners have noted, they still have some doubts about this process. And so the question about what will actually happen at the end of this 60-day period still kind of is a little bit of a question mark in my mind here. But again, y'all be continuing to look at what this is, even if there are some things still a little bit nebulous sounding even right now.
Yeah, I think some people are looking for more details on sort of the what the financial need is and the sustainability. I mean, if you're going to open a large cancer center, well, what are the details in terms of what sort of demand we have for that here in El Paso, and if it could sustain an entire center, because that has ongoing expenses. I mean, you can pass a bond to create the center, but then it needs to support itself. So I think some of the business leaders in the community and some political leaders are hoping for a little more transparency in terms of what the financial need is and what the numbers look like in terms of the sustainability for some of these projects.
And just talking about, of course, business cycles and some referencing here the idea of private investment being preferable. Speaking of private equity and private, business development here, something else you also been reporting on recently, the arrival of the new Chamber of Commerce CEO, who, given the many issues we're talking about here, it sounds like she has her work cut out for her.
Yeah, so the El Paso Chamber, I think, has about 1,400 members, which makes it probably the largest business group in the city and certainly one of the most influential. It's a big sort of publicly facing role. And the previous CEO, David Jerome, has taken a job at the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and they've been searching for a new CEO. And they did officially announce that she doesn't start until August. But the new CEO is Andrea Hutchins, and she does have some background and experience here in El Paso.
Okay. So again, you've had a Q&A with her and some of the initial reporting on her, and I guess when she actually starts in August, any inclinations on, or anything even preliminary yet, on any changes, variations, or sticking with policies that she has brought up here, or what are you expecting anyway?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this early in the game, she hasn't even kind of had her first day on the job.
Yeah,
it's a lot of sort of listening and getting a sense of the organization and all of that. I mean, what I've heard is that they're hoping that there's a bit more kind of a public presence for the chamber,
okay.
and in terms of advocacy publicly, that sort of thing, but nothing really specific at this point.
But of course, we'll keep focusing on that, as you will as well. So again, guys, right now here in studio has been Robby Gray, editor of El Paso Inc. Again, if you want to find out anything more about their reporting, elpasoinc.com, where you can also get your digital and or physical subscription there as well. So Robby, thank you very much for again coming in here and checking in with us, as we do most Tuesdays, usually at the start of the month here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely happy to have you on here. So at this point in the show, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines here. Among other things, again, if you're wanting to chime in on the show, the phone number to do that in is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still got heavy stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 westbound before Thorne to Trans Mountain with 24-minute delays. It's a combination of road work and heavy traffic. An accident's reported westbound Artcraft at I-10 Desert Boulevard. A crash with injuries at Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Hawkins. And at Gateway South at Sun Valley Drive, the left lane's partially blocked with road debris. Stay to the right. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Did you know that it was a boy from Memphis, Tennessee who founded Holiday Inn, and doing so changed the hotel industry as we know it? Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
the El Paso History Radio Show this Saturday, 10 to noon, here on 690 AM with your host, Andrew J. Polk, brought to you in part by Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan Drive. That's the El Paso History Radio Show, 10 a.m. Saturday, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Lowe's MVP's bonus days are here. Pro members can earn bonus points to redeem for rewards. And for 12 days, you can earn points on every dollar spent up to $1,000. MVP's Pro Rewards program subject to program terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/L/pro loyalty terms. Subject to change.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program. When we do have those phone lines open, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of stuff to be gotten into here. Just one thing that has come out a little bit more recently, actually, that you'll be interested to know how it actually works here, but some initial stories coming out from our news partners over at kfoxtv.com about another attempt to illuminate the top of Mount Cristo Rey. Now, longtime listeners and residents of this area may have been aware that there were previously attempts to do such a thing, but of course there were logistical issues and criminalistic issues, to be more honest with you. The Mount Cristo Rey Restoration Committee is very much tasked with the maintenance of the mountain and the pilgrimages that happen there. It has, been a little bit challenging in the past year, so I'll be keeping my eye on that because, vandalization would be an understatement there. To my understanding, it was ripped out entirely in some cases here. But a lot of comments coming in on the situations we are discussing here today. Louis Pinato saying that certificates of obligation circumvents the will of the people since we can't vote yay or nay. I mean, technically, yes, it is not going to be directly voted on by voters, but rather by the representatives we elected. So that's why I take, I guess, a minor bit of issue with the phrasing of non-voter approved debt, because it almost begs the question of, well, therefore, it's as if it should be voter approved. And sure, there's an argument to be made there that it should end up being, but not as in a fraudulent kind of way. No, it was supposed to be approved by voters and they're not doing it, outside of an imperative beyond you should be doing it, if that makes sense. Anyway, a lot more comments coming in, including commenting on the spelling of names here. Far be it for me to tell someone how to spell their name, among other things. And RJ saying on to UMC, not until they're making monthly payments on the money they spend will it stop here. So I think that we'll have a lot more focused on this here. One question not in their reporting here that EFR was asking about the reasons behind the hospital expansion. They were doing a lot of the actual financial statements on it. Those are some of the questions that would be very good to have answered by the actual staff and such of UMC themselves here. But also EFR saying Costco rumor may build near Trans Mountain and North Desert Highway. I'll believe it when I see it, or at least the construction starting here. Some of the other things we're working on for you, I know we'll usually tell you about that at the end of the show, but feels appropriate here, is some of the other warehousing stuff going on in our area, because supply chain issues, the supply, being able to have it on hand when you need it, very so much so important with this. Working on some things for you all in the coming weeks about what is the actual situation on that here in the region, because I mentioned that there are a lot of building starts that have gone on, particularly industrially, and what is the reality with that? We'll get into that and a whole lot more. But otherwise, Kathy Codry saying, let them secure their personal bank loans for that project. Stop putting more financial burden on the taxpayers. I don't see that being a particular alternative they will pursue here, but it's nice to dream sometimes, isn't it? And Maria Coleman saying, no surprise, so this is not the time for officials to embark on new projects and acquiring debt. Citizens are suffering and are struggling to meet their obligations. Maybe officials should listen to your advice and rein in their spending. The city is offering some wages of $11.11 per hour, not a living wage even in the good times, and those crossing the border to shop has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. Yeah, that's a little bit about what we were talking about there, particularly with the FIS and the CVS store in downtown El Paso, but also Fox Plaza and those areas certainly affected by it. It's one of the best, I guess, microcosms to really see that. But in my experience, has usually been going over to Cielo Vista Mall, because it's almost a completely different shopping experience than most of the other malls in town, to be the way I see it for the most part, because of the different clientele that is both pursued there and drawn to that. Even though a lot of these economic projections, I will fully say, and one of the more frustrating parts for me, whenever we start looking at some of the, I guess, national company analysis, people looking at El Paso, trying to evaluate it, if this is going to be a good investment for their business or not. One of the things that just constantly frustrates me is that oftentimes it's, well, the ratings, it's just like ratings we have on this station and any other on-air media in town. It stops at the border because, of course, radio signals stop right there, as well do as TV, internet, for example. But also, it completely usually eclipses the idea of that, well, cross-border trade, transit, travel, and economic impacts. Like, there's a reason that they, Sila Vista, and particularly the Walmart there, one of the busiest in the country, and it's not just because of the immediate surrounding area. It's because of the draw that it was at, proximity to the border, the, well, bridge there, among other things. So that analysis often is failing a bit in my mind, and yeah, the lack of recognition of that. Heck, when there was that huge vacant warehouse over on, well, essentially I-10 and Trans Mountain on the west side of the mountain, I guess what we're now calling Northwest, that area was, and that it was the former, what was that, the Hoover plant, and now occupied by something else, so no longer vacant. But when it was, there was actually some analysis going on from those big national companies that, oh, there's this huge amount of unoccupied, top level warehouse space. Clearly we shouldn't build anymore. Meanwhile, the secondary and slightly smaller than that regionally was depressed because no one was willing to build anymore because of that mildly flawed analysis in the long run. So we kind of keep being subject to that. John Broughton, and also saying that El Paso has 2 major commercial hospital chains in the city. Unfortunately, the patients have to pay their bills for services rendered, unlike UMC. Yeah, there's some analysis going on there, as we've talked previously. And again, just a reminder, we got coming up for you. Going to be talking with Estefania Seifert tomorrow. Sure, we'll touch on this a bit even further, including some of those big questions, because, yeah, how it's actually being managed and how we're going to get to these funds and figures. As, like, sure, as someone else, I think may have been Maria Coleman a little bit earlier, mentioning that if there's a little bit of drop in some taxing rates, and yet we're seeing this part of it, the county hospital district, increasing, are we really seeing a net benefit? And the short answer there being, I would fully expect not. But only more of that to come here as we're coming up on the top of the hour break here before the first hour of Talk El Paso. Again, airing live with you here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Those phone lines are open, even if you're enthralled by the subject we're discussing here today. Want to add your 2 cents? That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Portions of North and South Desert Boulevard closed again. North Desert Boulevard between Paseo del Norte and Trans Mountain. South Desert Boulevard is closed southbound between the Loop and Artcraft. I-10 westbound before Thorn up to Trans Mountain with 20-minute delays. And watch for a stalled truck blocking the left shoulder. 54 Patriots southbound at Hondo Pass. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Individual results may vary. There's no guarantee that past performance will be indicative of future results. Invest wisely. Paid for by Chaikin Analytics. Introducing Mark Chaikin.
I'm the guy you're supposed to hate. I spent 50 years on Wall Street where I helped create the entire stock rating system. And I'm here to tell you a very strange day is coming to America. In short, a massive and surprising new transition could soon determine the next group of millionaires while leaving 99% of the public even worse off than before. But if you want to be on the right side of the huge new shift I predict is coming to the market, you absolutely must consider buying one particular type of investment now before it's too late. And no, it's not cryptocurrencies. I just posted the biggest prediction of my 50-year career, along with the name and ticker symbol of the #1 investment to buy right now. For the first time ever, I'm handing these details not to the Wall Street elite, but to you.
To get the full story, plus the #1 investment to buy right now, go to investingprediction.com/radio. That's investingprediction.com/radio to learn more. Free of charge. Investingprediction.com/radio.
At Children's Cancer Research Fund, we believe a world without childhood cancer is possible, but it takes all of us. And whether it's developing a groundbreaking treatment or helping a girl realize her dream, everyone has a role in a child's cancer journey. Just ask researcher Brandon Moriarty about his latest breakthrough, a genetic biomarker treatment.
Children's Cancer Research Fund is a great organization. They provide funding to really dig deep into the research and make more progress. We were able to start a clinical trial that's led by Emily Greengard.
The hope is that these types of therapies are going to be more effective and a lot better tolerated, a lot more safe for the patients.
People ask me how I keep a smile on my face. It's easy when you have so many great people that take care of you and support you.
To find out how you can be a part of a child's cancer journey and a part of the cure, visit childrenscancer.org, a public service message from Children's Cancer Research Fund.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour, and always online. At KTSMRadio.com. And the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A Democratic congressman is calling former President Trump's true legacy the American carnage that took place on January 6th, 2021.
Although that turn of phrase explained little about our country before he took office, it turned out to be an excellent prophecy of what his rage would come to visit on our people.
It's a reference to Trump's 2017 inauguration speech in which he originally called crime and poverty American carnage. Maryland lawmaker Jamie Raskin said Trump's attempts to stay in power despite losing the 2020 election brutalized hundreds of people. A 50-year-old woman and a 7-year-old child are dead after a boat they were riding in capsized this afternoon in the Hudson River. Inspector Anthony Russo of New York's Harbor Unit said it happened shortly before 3 p.m. near the Intrepid Museum on the west side, and rough water may have been a factor. Twitter is suing Elon Musk in an attempt to make him follow through on his bid to buy the company. Twitter's accusing Musk of breaching a purchase agreement while causing share prices to drop. Musk said in an SEC filing last week that he wanted to withdraw from the agreement, arguing that the company was in violation of it after refusing to release info on spam and bot accounts. Republicans are pressing the issue of illegal immigration ahead of the November election. Lisa Taylor explains.
Texas's two senators are leading a delegation to the border on Thursday and Friday. There are briefings planned by both Border Patrol and the Texas military, which is running its own border protection operation. In a statement, Senator Cornyn says this crisis is not getting better because the Biden administration is simply not enforcing the law.
Lisa Taylor reporting. Safety concerns are being blamed for the pending shutdown of more than a dozen Starbucks stores across the country. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Navy is identifying a sailor found dead aboard the USS Carl Vinson in San Diego. 22-year-old Darren Collins died just before 6:30 a.m. Sunday aboard the aircraft carrier at Naval Air Station North Island. The information systems technician second class was a native of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, who joined the Navy in 2019. Governor Kathy Hochul says New York is launching a new public awareness campaign timed to a sixth COVID wave being seen all across the country. Sarah Lee Kessler has more.
Test early, treat early. That's the bottom line of New York's new COVID campaign. If you test positive for COVID-19 and have symptoms, ask your healthcare provider if free treatment makes sense for you. The PSA says the sooner you start treatment, the better it works. The $1 million awareness campaign will run in English and in Spanish across radio, TV, and digital media. Sarah Lee Kessler, New York.
First Lady Jill Biden is apologizing for an attempt to compliment Latinos that isn't going over very well. Michael Kastner explains.
The First Lady was speaking in San Antonio at the annual conference of Unidos US. As she attempted to praise the diversity of the Latino community, these words came out of her mouth.
As unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
The National Association of Hispanic Journalists said in a statement that Biden and her speechwriters ought to better understand the complexities of our people, who should not be reduced to stereotypes. Her press secretary tweeted an apology. He wrote, "The First Lady apologizes that her words conveyed anything but pure admiration and love for the Latino community."
Officials say a teenager was watching Stranger Things before causing a serious car crash in Minnesota last week. Witnesses saw the teen driving in the wrong lane before hitting a semi-truck north of Minneapolis. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Grand. That's grand. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's Black Friday and July sale is here with up to 45% off top-rated laptops and desktops for business with Intel Core processors. Plus, save on monitors and accessories, all with free shipping. Special financing available with Dell Business Credit. Upgrade today by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
M1EP.com, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
This is Alec Baldwin. I'd like to invite you to listen to my new limited series podcast about a true American hero who lived to tell the story of his imprisonment by the Japanese during World War II.
I'm kind of proud of the fact that I'm a survivor. I wouldn't want to go back through it, but I wouldn't trade it either. It changed my life completely.
Listen to Ben Steele American on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in. However you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there as well. Maria Kalman, RJ, Victor Navarrete, John Brazelton, Louis Pinado, Flaco Jimenez, Andrew Zignorant, Robbie Flores, Kathy Codry, EFR, and a whole lot more. I'm sure I'm missing someone in there, but if you want to leave your comment, more than welcome to. Again, those social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And dropping those likes and reacts over on the Facebook primarily. We do appreciate Robert Haynes, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez. Just helps us with those algorithmic things and our mission to have live local talk radio here in the borderland. Victor Navarrete making the point that the consumer price index inflation rate coming out tomorrow, already expecting the White House to blame the expected dismal figures on everything except their own disastrous policies here. And RJ also saying we're in a recession, waiting for confirmation that we spend an extra $500 a month on average. Yeah, that sounds about right on just about all of the costs here. Yeah. It's just a bit of a mess when it comes to that, particularly since it's a phrase that people hate to hear, particularly economists. If there's ever a boogeyman that would plague that particular profession, it would be the idea of stagflation. And if we're getting closer to that, well, that CPI report being mentioned there might be an issue. Maria Coleman with an interesting comment here saying the Hoover warehouse was proposed by Congresswoman Veronica Escobar as a migrant processing center back in 2019. Opposition to the plan by surrounding neighborhoods stopped the project. I believe it may be vacant again. I mean, I haven't gone in there personally ever, so I couldn't confirm that particularly. I want to say the last time I drove by it, actually on the way out to Pepe's, because it's right there at the corner of the route I've occasionally taken. Looks like there was a sign on this outside of it, but whether or not that means it's actually active or not, completely separate question here. But a lot of comments coming in and want to adding your 2 cents there. You're more than welcome to. But also, we of course have that phone line open right now. That number to call if you want to chime in that way, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, as we also have Ida Beza Gardner leaving her like over there on the page. Do appreciate it. So let's get those phone lines. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us right now there. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, I was watching the January 6th hearings today. And what can I say to them? Wow. Oh, wow. I mean, Trump is just so screwed for what his bad karma has been to this country. You know, and they also brought out more witness intimidation by him, they said, and it's been referred to the Department of Justice. So I expect that the Department of Justice will be opening an investigation, the one that you're dying to have done.
Yes, would very much like to
sometime
see
in
it.
the near future. And then that's when we're going to find out, definitively what a court of citizens will think about all the evidence that has been brought forth by this commission, who's done a just masterful job at bringing this evidence together and the witnesses. And I mean, these are people in his own White House who are testifying. His, White House counsel, again, saying that they told Trump that the election wasn't stolen. He continued to spread that lie. And then he incited all these people to show up and attack the Capitol. This is unprecedented. Everything that's going on right now in this community and throughout this country pales in comparison to what's happening in Washington, D.C. with this Donald Trump. And then the only thing that's almost just as bad is all these killings that we've had throughout America, which is another one of the dysfunctions of this country. And a lot of these right-wingers who are doing this, it is so sad that nobody is safe anywhere. Kids not safe at school, worshipers not safe at school, shoppers not safe at Walmart. You can't go to a concert without worrying. I mean, it even bothers me. You'd say, well, maybe, Amaya, maybe you're being paranoid. No, it happened here in our community. So I don't think I'm being paranoid when I feel a loss of safety and security in my very own community because of the ideology of these people who are afraid that they're being replaced, by blacks and browns and liberals. So they've got this theory that they can use violence to achieve their means. And so that's what we're seeing. And if this hearing was huge, and they're saying the next one's going to deal with, again, his dereliction and desertion of duty of doing nothing for 3 hours while people were being brutalized, beat, and people died at the hands of Donald Trump.
Okay, you lost me there with that last part, particularly, I shall say, like literally at the hands of, like, I get it. You don't like the guy, but to say and go beyond what is even able to be factually supported here doesn't necessarily do a disservice just to what I think you're hoping it is, the former president in this case, but particularly to even the point you're trying to make. Hyperbole is usually used in fiction for a reason because it makes a absurd point, but doesn't really help bear out a factor here. I mean, okay, I am fully on record and yes, fully supporting an actual investigation. Let me make a clear delineation between an actual investigation, the one that you're referencing being asked for now, which I will find an interesting point to be made, that it's being done after something actionable has been said to have happened, supposedly. We'll see how that actually bears out, as opposed to this, where you make the idea of the court of citizens. And let me just say that I'm going to call what's going on right now that part of it, or more accurately and more commonly put, the court of public opinion. That has been 100% the focus of this set of hearings, which I will again make a fine distinction between that and an actual investigation. Oftentimes, whenever you're talking about the progress of an investigation that there has not been the full report put out of, what do you often hear from the agencies involved with that is well, it's an ongoing investigation, and Keeley, we cannot comment on it. So sure, you're welcome to take your takeaways from the hearing today, and certainly I have concerns in the testimony being put forth here. When it comes down to actual liability, culpability, what you're talking about here in the very legal sense, here are some of my base level expectations that sure there might be some things that should have been done, but whether that's actually liable, legally punishable, I'm, at least the way it's being laid out so far, dubious of. And I think that's why, among other things, we have seen the order of operations we've been seeing here between having these hearings, first and foremost, because let's also be honest, if they thought that there would actually be something of evidence that would then be provable in an actual court, because again, let's make this perfectly clear, this is not a court. It's not even a judicial proceeding. It's a legislative proceeding in which about the only thing that can really come out of it would be further legislation. I mean, investigative purposes there in order to author legislation, or contempt of Congress. That's about the only thing we're looking at here. Plus, yeah, sure, impeachment, but of course, that ship sailed when the term of office ended. So that's what's happening now, and why any of these other repercussions that you're talking about here, like going to jail, etc., will and cannot be, literally, not even as oh no, that could never happen. Like, it literally can't happen as a result of this process. So that's why I think, just looking at this logistically, why this is happening this way, because I don't think that there's even certainty within the members of this committee, Liz Cheney, as you often refer to here, that there will be any actual, say, prison, fines, etc., imposed on this, because you're talking about proving a negative. You're talking about dereliction of duty and not taking action. Was it the president's job to ensure the safety and security of the Capitol at that point in time? Should he have done something? Probably. Was he actually required legally to do so in a way that would then open it up to actual legal repercussions? I remain very dubious. Sure, we're talking about unprecedented situations. I won't even argue with you on that particular point. But the idea that it could actually have something happen on the back end of it, beyond the, again, raking over the coals in the court of public opinion, that is very transparently the purpose here, I remain further dubious here. But whenever you're saying, and therefore done directly by the hand of the former president, we're getting pretty far afield there. I mean, there's some real legitimate things that should come out of this. Policy changes, the way we think about things, and the way people consider, and politicians consider, how they talk about things, not just as idle rhetoric, but having real world consequences. But at least for that last part, finding it actually enshrined in law, I think you're going to have more than a little bit of a difficult time in doing so here. So that's going to go ahead and take us through our next break right now. Thank you for the point in the call for what it's worth, but we got a lot more we'll be getting into, and more calls on the line. If you're wanting to chime in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Lot to get to here, and we'll continue doing it throughout the rest of this hour. Phones open again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And more comments on the line. All of that after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. If in all of these heavy subjects that we are discussing, you want to make sure that you're taking care of you and yours, again, the little secret that I've kept in my back pocket, but I'm more than happy to share with you, taking the flavor of what you're cooking, because sure, cooking at home saves you time, can save you money, or sometimes in between, depending on what you're cooking, but also the flavors. You may think, well, what makes restaurant food taste so much better whenever I go out to eat? Let me be honest with you. It's that they put a lot more salt, a lot more sugar, and often higher quality things like the extra flavored olive oils, the extra virgin olive oils, and balsamic vinegars from our friends over there at Enhanced Flavors. That's the secrets the restaurants use, and you can bring them right to your home by getting their great supply, 40 plus varieties of those, again, that can just really spice up your life and take your cooking to the next level. So if you really want to be hailed as the chef of your house, make sure to find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com, or out in the community, because they have often lately been at the Country Club Farmers Market 10 to 2 p.m. on Saturdays. But however you find them, find all their details, again, enhancedflavors.com, and enter that code at checkout for 15% off your next order. Just enter that as EF Radio. Again, EF Radio to get 15% off your next order at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a stalled vehicle, Border Highway, westbound at the 54 Gateway. Got an injury accident, Copia Street at Montana Avenue. Stop and go traffic still on the 10 westbound from before Thorne to Trans Mountain with 15-minute delays. And road construction has 3 lanes closed, Red Road westbound at Donovan, causing big delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Find yourself going through life ignoring the totals on your receipts? Oh, I can't bring myself to look. We've got your shot at $1,000 with Inflation Vacation. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If summer is heating up your hiring needs, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job and get hiring today by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control.
Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program, when we do have that phone line open for you. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Just to make it perfectly clear, there's no list, club, card you have to be carrying to be able to call into that. We put it out there so that if you're at all willing to put yourself out there, more than willing and able to do so and welcome to do so. Again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media as well. Do not get me wrong. There's the tons over there. So if you really want to go and see it for yourself, Skeptic Squad out in full force today, as well as the Thunder Jumbo comments formed more than a little bit over on particularly the Facebook, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, but you can find us in some format or another on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. So let's go to those phone lines right now. Again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, businesses are closing in El Paso. You mentioned 3, if I'm not mistaken.
4 technically, but 2 of them are very close to the same management, so you can quibble over exact numbers. But yeah, 3 incidents, shall we say.
Yes, well, I'm sure it's not going to be the last. But then again, how can businesses compete when the cost of acquiring and transporting goods is getting to be out of sight?
I mean, that is a very serious point here, because it's not even just on any, like we talk about a lot, the consumer impacts, but if a business can't even swing the order of it here, I mean, get your net 45 or net 90 something, and you can't even assume you're going to be able to recoup your cost in that amount of time, makes it, well, keeping the shingle out there very difficult.
Yes, agreed. And especially difficult, yes, when oil from the strategic petroleum reserves, whatever help it may be, it's not going to the American people. It's being sold to the Chinese.
Yeah, about 1 million barrels so far, and I think 1 million barrels to India, I want to say. But yeah, the idea of that being sold out there, again, there's a kind of theory along that about why that would be a good idea, but even just optically, that has not proven to be a real winner. It doesn't feel like.
Well, yeah, of course. They don't want us to be using the oil and polluting the air here, but it's okay to sell it to foreign governments and let them pollute the earth from the other side of the Pacific. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Lord knows that none of that air is shared, right?
Yeah, right. Anyway, I must respond to Comrade Raul.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, no, it is. We are not safe anymore in this country. You can't enjoy a steak anymore without being harassed.
It's such a dumb idea for that to be your idea of political discourse, because I don't care what it's about or who is proposing it here. All you're doing is ticking off that person, making yourself feel good, but then also anyone looking at that being like, so if I hold anywhere near a similar opinion, that means that you're just going to make my life a living hell as much as possible, because that's a definite idea and way to get people to convince to agree with you.
Yeah, well, that's true. I know that, hey, if I'm enjoying a steak at wherever it is, Ruth Chris or a Saltgrass Steakhouse, and somebody is sticking their nose in my face, yeah, you're going to piss me off. But then you have people like Maxine Waters who steered people to harass conservatives and members of the Republicans who were in the White House. Yeah, no big deal. But the only riot that counts is the one that happened to the at the Capitol.
Yeah, it's just the perspective on it as you're bringing it up there, because a lot of other events that happened in 2020 also do come to mind and are brought up in this way. And I feel no compunction whatsoever to say that all of those events were bad, discourse or not. You're saying that the burning down or defiling of any building, area, government or not here, what was a good thing, is something that I'm not totally going to be on board with in any way, shape, or form.
True. And how about this, Raul? Are you pleased or satisfied with left-wing locals tracking your location and certain big tech agencies or businesses providing a feed, a bird dog feed, to let them know where you're at? That's what my big complaint.
Yeah, as much as we talk about constitutional implications writ large here, the essential relative weakening of the Fourth Amendment that has not happened in any substantive way, like we've not seen the removal of rights for the most part. Again, concerns with red flag do continue, but the idea that essentially the way that it is used modernly, the concepts enshrined within the Fourth Amendment, search and seizures, personal papers, etc., as not applying to a lot of the digital sphere that let's be honest, tons, and I do mean literal tons of the commerce that we encounter today. I mean, not a plug here, but Prime Day going on right now. The idea that those kind of things going on are not as also secured by the Fourth Amendment as anything else, and not even because of any changes again, but rather the interpretations that have come in about, well, that's not really your person and papers, is something I think about probably more than a lot of people, just because it doesn't come up that often.
True. Yes, and I would like to see an investigation by a real court of law, real prosecutors, and people who are allowed to be able to exercise their due diligence and have their due process. And I don't, like I said, I don't condone what happened on January 6th.
Absolutely,
we're getting into Friday topics now, but. One last point, Comrade Raul. Nancy Pelosi, who you seem to hold in high esteem, looks like she's when she speaks, her hand gestures looks like she's conducting an orchestra. Why is it that she declined the deployment of the National Guard, 20,000 troops authorized by Trump and approved by the Department of Defense? That's the big question. This probably would have never happened if the Guard had been deployed like it should have.
I mean, I do have some questions about chain of command issues, who had authority at what point, who should have done something, and that's kind of why I like the idea of there being an actual investigation, but we'll see what happens once whatever these hearings do end up concluding, if they do, before November, essentially.
Roger that, and I turn the mic back over to you, Andrew.
No, sure thing. Appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there.
You too.
All right, I think we can get at least one more call on the line here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some more comments coming in here. RJ asking me, rose-colored glasses from India. Is that what they're using the petroleum for over there? And also mentioning about can't get a million people to watch here. Ratings are horrible, particularly since it's I mean, the whole primetime production of it and the made-for-TV nature of it, I guess probably someone irked by that more than a little bit. And why I'm kind of like, yeah, paying attention to it, watching it when available. And we're not focused on more of the topics we focus here on this program, but we all know why they are happening and the purpose behind them and the, well, essentially political theater that they are primarily focused on. And that's not even a controversial point. It is meant to influence people politically. That is the purpose of what is going on here, because any legal repercussions, except for, again, the contempt of Congress, which I mean, people have been threatening to fight subpoenas left and right as it is, literally probably won't come out of this here. Let's get at least one more call on the line here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
You cannot be serious. Here we go again. I just heard that awful Andrew going on, ranting for at least the fifth, sixth time that it's Nancy Pelosi's fault because of this riot, because she didn't call out the National Guard and whatever. She is not, I'm going to say this 100 times over, not in charge of the National Guard or the Capitol Police or the United States military. Simple as that. You got that, Andrew? Not you, the awful Andrew. Simple as that. Now, number two, I've been following this business going on with the committee stuff, not died in, watching it every minute of the minute. The thing about it is, has this nut job that was found guilty testifying and said, hey, Donnie Dotard told me to go to the Capitol and attack it. What kind of idiots, him plus another 40,000, are that led by the nose, knowing they're doing so? Why not Donnie Dotard telling these guys, these morons, to go out, hey, go shoot somebody because I, the president, told you to do this? What kind of stupidity is that? And thirdly, as far as prevaricators and slime balls and ignoramuses, wherever they are, you need to find them out and cause them to go out through the back door, including Morton's. That's what I want to say.
Okay, I'm just saying, shoe on the other foot time here. If it were to be that you are publicly being put forth as having an opinion held by some as unpopular, even if you fully believe yourself justified in that, should that open up yourself to being harassed in any public sphere? Would you think that that's essentially the rule we should go with on that last point there?
Well, no. I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head because it ticks me off so bad. Of course not. I'm a rational, reasonable person. I think it's awful what happened to him. As much as I hate that little stupid schmuck, loves his beer, I like beer. But if I ever saw him in a bar and he was drinking a beer, I'd pour it on top of his head. But nevertheless, trying to be a calm, cool, collected person, no, it's a terrible thing. As schmucky as he is, he should be allowed to have his stinking lousy dinner at Morton's. That's what I want to say.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
All right.
All right, you have a good one there here. I mean, there's room for political discourse. One of the things that, I don't know, we're here for on this program, but saying that, and everyone who I disagree with, life has to be miserable is a hell of a take to make, and one that wish you luck with, particularly if that table were to be flipped at all. I don't think anyone would enjoy it here. So we got to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got calls in the line and we got comments that we will be getting to. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone line's full up at the moment, but if you want to try to squeeze in, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Talk about taking care of yourself because, well, if you're not doing it, no one else is going to do it for you. But that can also take on a whole lot of forms and formats, whether it's eating right, whether it's, considering exercising, even if just thinking about some of the topics we can do can definitely get you exercise. But also looking good, feeling good. All those things are things I consider and why I make the choice. And we have the official hair and beard sponsor of the show, of course, Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. They are literally the ones I trust with all the hair on my head. I've been going to them for years for that purpose, including right before my nuptials. They are the ones I trusted to do the job that would end up being the pictures that would be for the rest of my life. So even if it's not a huge event like that, you can go to them for your everyday look, expert hair and beard styling with their expert barbers there, plus a whole lot of other services. My man Tip from our sister station, Fox Sports 1380, getting the pedicure there because, well, they've got the services. And, well, I know for hiking, it's something I've considered because, those toes and toenails being out of whack, any case, whatever you need in your life, they've got the services there for you in terms of good grooming and a whole lot more. So find them online at gentsrepublic.com or call them 915-532-3000. That's 915-532-3000. Or again, online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The trial continues for a former Las Cruces police officer accused of killing a man that he was trying to detain. Christopher Smeltzer is charged with second-degree murder in the 2020 death of Antonio Valenzuela. Smeltzer used a chokehold to restrain Valenzuela. Today, another LCPD officer who responded to the scene with Smeltzer testified that they were unable to restrain Valenzuela, who was resisting arrest. The officer said that the vascular restraint was a last resort. The trial continues this week. Smeltzer faces up to 20 years if convicted. El Paso County Commissioners agreed to raise the starting pay for lifeguards to $14 an hour. That's up from the current $13 an hour. Hiring incentives such as $800 bonuses were offered to hires at the start of 2022. The county still doesn't have enough lifeguards to fully staff all 3 county pools. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins, a multi-vehicle accident that's blocking multiple lanes. Expect delays. Police and medical on the scene there. I-10 westbound, it's been slow all afternoon. It still is from Thorne up to Trans Mountain with 9-minute delays. Gateway Boulevard northbound at McCombs, an accident reported. And police are on the scene of another crash, I-10 westbound at Schuster. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. I hope you're a fan of this kind of weather because it is not going to change much over the next 7 days out. We can thank that area of high pressure off in the Four Corners that's going to basically keep us looking pretty dry and very hot. Temperatures during the day will continue to climb to near triple digits with those mild overnight temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Crayola 24-count crayons and 4-ounce Elmer's glue are just 50 cents each. Plus, 1-inch binders are only $1.99. In-store only. Offer ends 7/16. Limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Attend the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, July 16th and 17th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Mattock Street, El Paso, Texas. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, antique guns, custom knives, scopes, a huge selection of ammo, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, July 16th and 17th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Mattock Street, El Paso, Texas. Get $2 off admission. Go to azgunradio.com. Parking is free.
If summer is heating up your hiring needs, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job and get hiring today by visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late. Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media platforms we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in from most of those platforms. Twitter, it's more of a DM thing or respond under the tweet kind of thing, in which case, all I ask is that you're clear on the concept of what we talk about on this program here, because someone wasn't recently, and if you're going to show your whole ass, that's your own problem there. But otherwise, if you're wanting to conversate about the issues we're talking about, more than available to do so. Again, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM is the number to call there. And again, leaving those likes and reacts over on the social media, Facebook primarily. Ion Graham, Lorenzo Medina Jr., Ida Beza Gardner, Robert Haynes, Robbie Flores, and Flaco Jimenez. We do appreciate it, as well as some very interesting commentary coming in here in a lot of different ways. But let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Mario on the east side here with us right now. Mario, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments. First of all, I think Raul pretty much takes it too far with Trump. We know, you and I know, he hates Trump. That's how he can talk about, Trump. He can't talk about anything else but Trump. Why don't you bring some solutions, Raul? First of all. Second of all, he adds that it's Trump's fault that, a lot of people got killed. Really? I only know about one person who got killed, and it was, by a police officer killed a protester. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm against what happened January the 6th, just like I was against every single protest in 2020 that the liberals kept calling it, it's just mainly peaceful, where buildings got burned, businesses got looted. Peaceful. Now, as far as policies, I think Andrew should be talking about more like policies. Let's talk about policies. What's hurting Americans is the policies of Joe Biden. You well know that the policies that if he would just kept Trump's policies, he would have been looked as the greatest president with the economy, everything. Because if you remember, we were energy independent, but now we're not because he's against energy. Like global warming only happens in America. He wants other countries to produce more oil because we can't do it because global warming. Really? So you're going to let India, China, Russia, production of oil, but he's going to punish America? That's really deceptive, because what he's doing, it seems like he's doing it on purpose. So, it seems like the Democrats are good at a couple of things, They like to organize fiction, Russia collusion, Russian obstruction. This seems to be the third, I guess, impeachment on Trump, So they organize fictions, and then, of course, they're very good at wasting our money, just like what Biden is doing. Once again, let's look at policies, Raul. Let's look at policy, Raul. Go to policies, man. What solutions do you have? I mean, do not tell me the solutions are Biden's, because, he's taking us to a path that is really horrible. People are suffering. People are really struggling to pay for food, gasoline, electricity, and so on. But, he doesn't see that. He just sees the hatred that he has for Trump. That's all he can talk about. Maybe he loves him because that's all he talks about. Anytime that he calls, he talks about Trump. Nothing else. Just Trump, Trump, Trump. I guess he's in love with Trump. That's my comment.
Thank you very much for the point in the comment there. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely. You have a good one there. I will say that, again, the energy policy I know comes up quite a lot here, but particularly in reference there, I mean, we will start importing primarily gasoline because domestic production of that is not there. Natural gas, I think somewhere on the order of 5 different pipelines just in our area, like our broadcast area, are exporting it to Mexico and points and beyond, because that's something that we're very good at producing within this country here. So sure, net energy exporter is the most appropriate term there, because there's still going to be some importing, and there's a little bit quibbling to be done over numbers involving what is being imported to then be immediately re-exported because of essentially refinery use. But we won't get too deep into the weeds there. I am sure that probably we'd be seeing a lot going on here, as has also been referenced, the idea that, well, this current administration is not to blame for any of this because it's all happening to them, and what could they reasonably been done? So I would be dubious, even if there were to be a lot of policies you like from the previous administration continued on completely intact into this one, that it would have worked out the same way. I mean, the polling numbers, as much as I have a distrust for polling numbers in this era anyway, until further notice, until there's some, like, I don't know, certainty factors, verification factors added in that reflect the idea of people essentially lying to pollsters in this day and age. Yeah, it can happen. They're still at some record lows here for this administration, and apparently it's risen slightly as of today, but if I was in the party as the president, I would be very concerned in general, even if it's more of a district by district thing, because again, the propensity is, believe it or not, to send people who already have the position, particularly representatives, back to that position. Kathy Cody pointing out that propane prices have doubled this year. I have been looking at that, and I'm glad that I've got a spare tank or so hanging out with my and any of those grilling needs there. Let's get to at least one more call before we hit that next break here. We do have Marco in Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was looking at the news today, and I was trying to, organize how I wanted to approach my time today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at some of the events of, like, Sri Lanka is a prime example. It's in chaos. They had an article many years ago saying how by the year 2025, they were going to be one of the most prosperous countries because of ESG. And ESG has just failed them miserably. And it's not only them, it's many of the Asiatic countries all over. India's not suffering that as much because they're already, it's both mega wealthy and mega impoverished.
Yeah, that's true.
And so now look at Africa. Right now, you have famines that you can't even imagine. And really, the scarcity of food that's created is on an insane level. You have people in the Dutches, in like the Dutch countries, that are starting to burn these farms that are owned by Bill Gates, because they're completely against what they're trying to do to their country. And so these elites, the globalists, they're on the march. And I know, and again, I always say it sounds fantastic when you hear it, but these people they're dedicated to your destruction. I was listening to the person you had today and you guys were talking about the economy, and he's like, well, businesses are closing, and it happens all the time. You know what? Yes, it does happen, but it's happened because of the lockdowns that the government said, hey, and again, there's enough to spread around. A lot of people say, oh, you love Trump, you love Trump. I want everybody to hear this. The person that started the insanity was in this country was Donald Trump. He locked us down. I know he wanted to believe Fauci and all these people, but you know what the funniest thing is? These people talk about the things that are coming because they see them coming. So when you see the video, your eyes are like, wait, these guys are talking about COVID, and then they act like, wow, we didn't know that. Well, they're just directly gaslighting you and lying to you. And so you look at all these issues, the way corporations treat individuals. So let me lock this into local. Ready? This is the El Paso Water Company. Are they a private company?
It's a little bit complicated to say, but because there is strong public oversight on it, but it also does have, well, its own board and an unelected thing. So it operates in a lot of ways like a private one.
Exactly. And so you look at what they do. Okay, ready? They have an app. You want to pay your water bill? Have you tried to pay your water bill? If you are a poor person who doesn't have a cell phone, an elderly person who really doesn't have the tech savviness, do you know how many people are in debt in El Paso over their stupid water bill? For one reason alone, because the water company of El Paso, because they're a corporation and they want to follow their ESG scores, they've closed down their customer service site. You can't even go and negotiate. You can't go talk. You have to go to their stupid phone number to try and pay your bill. And you know what happens if you put in your account number and you try to talk to somebody? They tell you there's a 2-hour wait and they hang up on you. If you call at 7 o'clock, they tell you the same thing. That is shameful. I promise you this. I guarantee you this. Their app is a misery. It doesn't work. And anybody who signs on to that, you're putting your own information at risk. I guarantee you there are so many holes in that app that it's just dumb. Secondly, I guarantee you there's about 200,000 to 150,000 people that are underwater on their water bill. Just on their water bill. They're probably behind 6 or 7 months. The water doesn't care. The water company doesn't care. Why? Because they're collecting their stupid little, oh, here's a penalty here, here's a penalty there. Why were you behind? Well, I tried to log on to the app and I couldn't pay my bill. Too bad, so sad for you. We're going to shut your water off. Here you go. That's justice for a company that's partly owned by the El Paso people. They should really, and I know I say this a lot, they need to get off their ass. The people that are on that board, and start putting people that we can go talk to so we can pay our bills. Because they act like it's 1984. Do not come and bother us, please, because we don't want to talk to you. Just send us your money and shut up. Oh, you can't reach us? Then pay your bill. Maybe we'll get in touch with you. Everyone in El Paso should remember this. The answer to 1984 and these companies that act like they're above all of us is 1776. And I put that on the foot, like always, of the Democrat Party because it's only the Democrat Party that pushes these ideas. It's the global liberal order that thinks that they can just walk all over individuals and treat them like trash and cockroaches. Your day's coming, and the people are waking up. The answer to 1984 is 1776.
I think a lot of people, well, we've talked about it on this program, particularly previously, the idea that for the lack of involvement that we often see from people here in town, and Maria Coleman saying, yeah, the water bill issue has become a problem in many cities nationwide. According to El Paso's water website, actually looking that up here, the only payment in person locations are through the MoneyGram service now. So for those needing to do it that way, that can be an issue. I will agree with you fully there. It is a problem, and I'm having switched over water surface recently, hoping there aren't any issues because, yeah, sitting on the phone line to deal with that is not something I'd be looking forward to there. But again, on the idea of people actually being involved with it, that people in this day and age, as much as the idea of being politically ignorant was a luxury of the rich previously, those that didn't affect, it almost seems to be a general malaise. And I've had some conversations with others on this point because essentially people are not caring until it affects them, and much to their detriment, I fully submit. And so once these detriments become more and more bountiful, as they have tended to be, I think we will see more people saying, wait, what the heck is going on? So I don't know if wake up is a good way to put to it, but drag kicking and screaming into having to pay attention might be a little bit closer to it, particularly as things continue on there. So I'll tell you what, we got to take that last break of the hour here right now. Do appreciate the point in the call, but we will continue on with this. And I'll tell you what, coming up for you on the show here after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the I-10 westbound at Geronimo, you got a crash that's blocking the left lane. Border Highway eastbound at Yarborough Drive. Tire road debris there blocking the right lane. Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins. That incident has cleared. And stop-and-go traffic continues on the I-10 westbound. Thorne up to Trans Mountain with 15-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
While the American Revolution won the United States its independence from England, it wasn't until 2 years after the war ended that British troops left America. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Parents, are you tired of helping put your kids' shoes on? They're squirming, watching cartoons, anything but helping. Luckily, it's Skechers to the rescue. Introducing new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Footwear you can just get your kids to step into and their shoes are on. You don't need to bend over. You don't need to sit on the floor and try to wrangle them on. Actually, you don't even have to touch them. With Skechers slip-ins, they just step in and go. Plus, they're so easy, they could be the first shoes your kids can put on by themselves. And Skechers slip-ins are great for older kids too. They're quick, easy, and fun. The secret is a unique comfort pillow in the heel that helps your child's foot slide securely into place and cradle it in comfort. Plus, they're available in all types of Skechers styles with and without laces. And most are machine washable, so you can keep them looking newer longer. Get Skechers slip-ins, the "Where have you been all my life" shoes, for your kids or for mom and dad today. Find Skechers slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We have covered quite a lot of ground here today, and we'll, of course, continue doing it tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, including talking with Estefania Seifert about some of her investigative reporting, including, we'll probably touch on UMC just a little bit, but a whole lot more to get to there, and some of her upcoming reports as well, so stay tuned for that, as well as some of the other things we're working on for you. A little bit more about water supplies in town, oddly enough, and some work going on with that as it compares to also other national issues in that same vein, as well as, again, those issues going on with warehousing, supply, all that stuff we'll continue focusing on here. So we got time for one more quick one here. Do we have Tony on the west side with us right now? Tony, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mario and the rest of you. Mario, the caller right before Marco, listen very carefully. Why do you think I referred to him as our patient from the Northeast? Trump deranged syndrome is the reality. It's a real clinically recognized syndrome, bro. It's all across the nation. It's real. People are really, really suffering from that. Let's be patient with them. Let's try to pray for them and help them out. Andrew, thank you for your patience. And you're right about, Marco, by the way, you're right about the global network of how the globalists are trying to turn us into one world government. Thank you, everybody.
No, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. That's about going to do it for us here today because we're out of time for this program. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, this participation, whatever you may think about it, and whatever you bring to it is absolutely important, I think, for continued health and prosperity of the community. If we're not talking about it, who else is going to? So we'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. Have a great evening, all. See you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the I-10 westbound at Geronimo, you got a crash that's blocking the left lane. Border Highway eastbound at Yarborough Drive. Tire road debris there blocking the right lane. Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins. That incident has cleared. And stop-and-go traffic continues on the I-10 westbound. Thorne up to Trans Mountain with 15-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Individual results may vary. There's no guarantee that past performance will be indicative of future results. Invest wisely. Paid for by Chaikin Analytics. Introducing Mark Chaikin.
I'm the guy you're supposed to hate. I spent 50 years on Wall Street where I helped create the
entire stock rating system. And I'm here to tell you a very strange day is coming to America. In short, a massive and surprising new transition could soon determine the next group of millionaires while leaving 99% of the public even worse off than before. But if you want to be on the right side of the huge new shift I predict is coming to the market, you absolutely must consider buying one particular type of investment now before it's too late. And no, it's not cryptocurrencies. I just posted the biggest prediction of my 50-year career, along with the name and ticker symbol of the number one investment to buy right now. For the first time ever, I'm handing these details not to the Wall Street elite, but to you.
To get the full story, plus the number one investment to buy right now, go to investingprediction.com/radio. That's investingprediction.com/radio to learn more. Free of charge. Investingprediction.com/radio.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio. 690 KTSM.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KT.